Alright everyone, we start off today talking about another Biden gaffe. Well, it's not really a gaffe, it's more just poor optics in general and a completely false claim. Link in the description, not archived, of course, it's just a tweet reiterating what Biden said the other day. He is claiming that more Americans now feel financially comfortable after his year and a half of, I don't know, I guess you could loosely term it leadership when you're a puppet who has accomplished absolutely nothing. That the average household debt load is down. Of course, jobs do continue to grow. The unemployment rate is actually admittedly low. Too bad the labor force participation is subpar, which sort of counterbalances that and makes it absolutely meaningless. This was even the case at times under Trump's presidency, and certainly was the case during the first half of Obama's presidency. The fact is that the claims are false, but the bigger story is really, again, it's a tale of a total failure of the Biden administration, the asterisk administration, on messaging, on branding itself, mainly on optics. Build Back Better was never a good slogan, although it's still being used bizarrely by Bernie Sanders. He apparently never got the memo that that entire slogan had been quietly retired by the Biden White House. Just to be clear about how nutty Bernie Sanders is, maybe he's doing it on purpose. Oh, screw this dude, he's not a socialist like me. I'm going to keep using the slogan that he wishes that he had never used in the first place. It was panned widely, mainly because there's been no building back. Things are certainly not better than they were under at least the first 3.5 years of Donald Trump. Hell, they're worse than they ever were under Obama. They're about as bad as they were peak Great Recession before Obama got a chance to really do anything and give a bunch of golden parachutes to billionaires, bailing out big banks at the cost of the entire American taxpayer basis. Here's the thing. No, more Americans do not feel financially comfortable. That makes sense. We are suffering near double-digit inflation, and there's also a lie here, but it's not a full-on lie. When you talk about household debt, technically speaking, you are correct, sir. Yes, household debt has fallen slightly over the last year. The problem is that the reason that it's falling is because you're inflating the currency. If you have $10,000 of debt, don't think of it as $10,000 in any absolute objective term. Think of it in terms of what that $10,000 related to intangible goods or services actually will purchase. If $10,000 can purchase 10,000 watermelons, and then you inflate the currency so that that $10,000 can only buy 5,000 watermelons, the relative scope of that debt as compared to overall wealth, the total amount of money you can compare it to, has fallen. But it's not because you've technically got less debt. It's just that technically speaking, the ratio has changed. The problem is that the inflation is eroding the dollar faster than wages can keep up. If that weren't the case, actually the fiscal situation right now with an inflationary cycle would be good for people who have debt. The problem is we see several other issues with this, and people are pointing this out in the responses to Biden's comment on Twitter and elsewhere across the internet. The first is that the monthly savings, that is the amount that people are putting in to their bank accounts and not spending on goods and services, you have to eat, you have to pay rent and so forth, it has precipitously fallen. Well, that doesn't do anything for his claim that household savings are up. I'm not sure exactly where he got that data point. I want to see a source. I'm assuming that it's Salon or Slate or something like that. It's a doofy claim. It makes no sense. It's clearly and self-evidently wrong. I suppose the idea is that if Americans overall as an aggregate, and this includes the billionaire class, by the way, they're part of that aggregate, if there's any savings at all, well, yeah, if any money was saved, the total amount that they hold is greater than it was last month or last year. The problem, again, you have near double-digit inflation. So if people are saving less than that total, that rise in costs, they're losing ground. That's number one. Secondly, people are now resorting to credit card usage. I hate to tell you this, but one of the things that people are doing right now, and it's a terrible, terrible idea, is that they're making ends meet by taking out credit lines. That's very dangerous. This is going to hit us like a goddamn freight train. If we go off the cliff into recession, That debt's going to blow up in a lot of people's faces, and the government will probably have no choice but to create a new inflationary cycle by bailing people out, thus causing a debt spiral. Yes, people are taking out more credit lines. By the way, that is, of course, a form of debt. They're not doing it because they feel good about the economy. They're doing it so they can buy ramen soup. Or baby formula, if they can find it. By the way, another stunning admission of defeat is that the White House optically seems to think it's a good idea to crow about having to use military transport planes in order to deliver baby formula from Australia, of all places, to various parts of the United States in order to make sure that infants actually can eat if they're not breastfed or something like that. It's crazy. Again, it's mainly an optics fail. The actual on-the-ground pragmatic failure is very much real. But you would think a White House that clearly is run by puppeteers that are malevolent. They are trying to harm the average American person. They do not care about you. You need to understand that the people currently pulling the strings in D.C., by and large, don't care about you. They don't care about dead children. Their gun control bullshit is a farce. They obviously don't care about infants getting properly fed. They certainly don't care about the middle or working classes, small business owners, etc. And much of what they're doing is just smoke and mirrors. It's a bunch of bullshit games. But their messaging is so poor that, it's one part malevolence to one part incompetence. I've never seen more poor messaging from an administration in my lifetime. I've gone back and I look at past administrations too, right? I've looked at political ads, speeches, bits of news and so forth from prior administrations. So Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, people that come before my time, JFK, Eisenhower, all the way back basically as far as you can go. You can even find snippets from the news from the 19th century and things like that. There have been some real doozies with regards to poor or cringy messaging, with regards to policies you want to put forward. Never have I seen so many examples in such a short period of time as with the Biden administration. This makes sense, though. He's also at record low approval numbers. In the polling aggregate right now, Biden is pacing well behind Donald Trump, and Donald Trump faced a bit of a headwind, considering the fact that the entire legacy media was lock, stock, and barrel against him even before he became the friggin' nominee, let alone the general candidate and then President Trump. He managed to scrape up numbers that were better than Biden, despite everyone dogpiling him. All of those people have been praising Biden lavishly and actively helping him. The legacy media literally in part taking marching orders from the White House on economic news like this. The only thing Biden legitimately has to praise himself for are jobs reports that haven't yet cratered, although they're on the precipice of doing so, that don't even account for labor force participation. The fact is that no, most Americans do not feel financially comfortable, which is why, Joe, your polling is low for a reason. It's not because Americans feel good about their wallets. If you look at the generic ballot, Americans clearly are rejecting, at least economically, the messaging of the entire Democratic Party. This extends to the border, to crime, to diplomacy, and to everything else. Now you're about to get cock-smacked on guns. The reason they pivoted to that, despite the fact that the left has effectively lost the culture war, the war on guns, is because they've lost it by a smaller margin than they're currently losing on all of these other issues. That's about all. Peace out.